So we're proposing to enter into the interlocal. The overall cost for the county, with the local match would be $296,800. The sheriff's department would be responsible for $159,200. That's to equip their sheriff's vehicles with equipment. And then the highway, we would be responsible for $137,600, and that's to equip the traffic signal. So we're asking approval to enter into that, or for the county council to enter into that interlocal.
Any questions? All right, that's it. Thank you. Juvenile court.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. You'll notice that this is coming out of a grant fund. I spoke to Tim yesterday. Wasn't sure if he was going to be here or not, but I'm going to seek approval on all this. It's a grant that was awarded, and that was the purpose of it, to spend it.
All right, thank you. Juvenile Detention Center. It's here. Same thing, I believe it's what's a fund, they're looking for appropriations for it, so. CASA, have you heard from anyone from CASA?
Process. It's, I'm not sure why we're required to do this. Maybe Tom or even yourself could explain, but these are CASA, it's a CASA fund. It can only be spent for CASA, and they're asking to spend it.
What's CASA?
That's because we have to approve appropriations.
Court appointed special advocates.
Yeah. Okay, Health Department. Nick, you here?
We're requesting within our public health emergency preparedness grant to create 2 new line items and then to transfer some funds through those line items so we can expend the grant money that we have currently available. So this is primarily to put up a storage container by one of our buildings back there. So I have some place to put our supplies that we use when we have an emergency, or we're not having an emergency, to put them. So
Yeah, I recall that you explaining that, I think in June. Yeah, all right. Thank you, Nick. Anything else you have? That's it?
no.
All right, thank you. Economic Development. Morning, Tim.
Good morning. The first item we have is just a simple transfer. We had some vehicle repairs to do that were kind of anticipated. Let's put it that way. And that's just a simple transfer. The other one is an ordinance. We have a year, actually 2 years ago, we received $2.1 million in home American Rescue Plan monies. And it's taken us forever to get this plan through to HUD. 95% of the plans in the state of Indiana were denied, and ours was one of them. The only first 4 that were submitted in 21 were approved. Everything else since then has been denied. So we're back and forth with HUD trying to get the specifics of what they want. They required something a little bit unusual in doing the plan. It required us to work with all the other public jurisdictions in the county that serve similar citizens that we serve to coordinate efforts to do projects. So we're doing like $350,000 with, in conjunction with the Gary to do some housing for their folks. And then same thing with East Chicago and Hammond if they come up with plans. We have set aside funds because we have not had any direct communications with Hammond. Hammond so far doesn't want to coordinate anything. East Chicago, we haven't heard from East Chicago yet, and we still have some reserve funds for that. But we're trying to get that plan approved, but we still need the ordinance to create the fund because we have to have a separate fund. And we're getting close to the point where we think we're going to get it approved by HUD probably in the next month or so. If that's the case, I'll be back with you to put the actual line items within the fund. But this is just the ordinance to create it.
Questions? Yeah, it always helps the auditor's office when the fund is created before they get.
Oh, yeah.
So they know,
Just a tad.
yeah, you don't want someone else to get it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Emergency management.
Good morning.
Morning.
So over the past couple of years, we've received $3,000 in donations for emergency management. And that money's kind of been sitting there, and now that we have our new home, we have the ability to spend that $3,000 on the equipment for our EOC that it was earmarked for. So we're asking for another equipment line item, and then to put that $3,000 that's been sitting there into that line item. Then the other one is a transfer. We bought a couple computers, or tried to buy a couple computers for our emergency operations center. And we created the PO and other supplies and created a kerfuffle with the purchasing department. So we need to move that money to office machines.
Any questions? Thank you.
I have one. Why did you leave the $600+ over here? Why didn't you move it all? You had 3,000, unless I'm misreading this. You had the 3,000, but you only removed 2,300.
Oh, it's two different issues.
Two different issues, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Auditor, I believe Peggy and Kathy are both in attendance. This is, or is AJ here?
I saw AJ downstairs earlier. I haven't
Yeah.
seen him up here.
I'm not sure what this is.
I'm
Do you know,
here.
David,
here.
about this?
I'm here, Christian.
Bill? Okay. AJ, you want to explain your request?
Yeah, that's a invoice from last year. They just sent the bill this year, so it has to be paid this year. So I'm becoming for a resolution to pay the invoice from last year.
You billed us late?
Yeah, they billed us late. Yeah,
Any other questions? Thank you.
thank you.
The auditor also has the revised 144.
Revised 144, I spoke to Peggy yesterday. This is the combining of two positions, making it one, and Peg explained that this is a CPA, which they were struggling getting one, but now they have one, but it's going to be 75, but she's eliminated the two positions and rolled it into one. I know that she's spoken to other council members, but I'm not sure who.
She spoke to me. I talked to her.
Right. She said she was going to call around.
This person came out from a different department or something?
This person currently works in data.
Okay.
Okay. Oh,
It was
data.
loaned to the auditor, at one time the treasurer, Vitalis, who was the auditor, and then
Right. Okay. But this
And-
person came from data?
she's still in data, actually.
Oh, it's different department.
been
So coming
loaned
from
to the
data over
auditor's
to the auditor's
department.
office. It's going to be a little bit of a savings to us. Remember that we have the benefit package. What is that total? Tom, do you
I
know?
would know better. It used to be 14,000 when I was here, but it's more than that now.
Oh, you mean the insurance?
How much?
Insurance,
23?
about 35, 40,000.
So we'll be eliminating one position, so we'll actually save that money and it just gets thrown into one.
Two,
Sorry,
eliminating two positions.
eliminating two, but
Yes.
just putting it in one position, which means we don't have to pay the benefits on another one. And
Yeah, that's under the commissioners.
data
Yeah.
is yes.
Yeah.
Data is yes.
And then there's also a supplemental pay, which I don't understand who's getting that amount. Who's getting that supplemental pay? Is that to the financial accountant? Do you know?
I don't, it's
Peggy, are
not,
you online, or Kathy, can you explain the
Hi,
supplemental
Christine.
pay?
Yes, this is Kathy. Yes, the supplemental pay will be going to certain employees in the office.
Oh, so it's,
I did have it broken down as, we're gonna break it down into like 7,000, 6,000, 5,000, from 4,000, 3,000, 2,000. We're just catching some of the employees that are at a lower salary.
this comes out of the, again, I love it when it's not the general fund. This comes out of the auditor's endorsement, B fund.
Yes, it does.
Any questions from anyone?
I guess this is just a general question for my own information. So going forward, if we know that there's something like this, when we set our budgets this year, is that something that you could like put into the budget from the beginning? Is that how that would work?
I don't, we'd have to, I don't know how we would take, oh, Chris or Tom, you can help it. We would have to take money from the auditor's endorsement fee fund. We don't necessarily know exactly what that will be.
Right.
So it's hard to move the auditor endorsement fee fund over to general fund.
I don't know that we can.
Yeah, you can't move,
I
it.
don't
It's a
think you can.
non-reverting fund.
Yeah.
So when they do their budget, they'll still have a supplemental pay in that fund that will carry over into the next year also at budget time.
I just didn't know if there's a way to do this from the beginning, so it's already.
Sometimes you can't commingle the funds, that's all. I've learned that since I've been out here.
The issue is, and we've had this in the past, is with these departments that do have the opportunity to give supplemental pay to their employees. And I'm not sure what they base that on, merit or, the specific job they're doing. I know in grants, sometimes they're working in the grants, so you pay them. The problem is in the past, if you recall, sometimes the fund goes away. And then those folks get used to that being their salary. And then the taxpayers end up having to pick up all that extra cost. That's the issue with supplemental
So
pay.
they're paid out of two places. The auditor's office will tell you, I've not made a commitment to increase should the supplemental dollars ever go away. As long as they're there, I don't have a problem with it being the non-reverting funds.
Why wouldn't they show the breakdown of this?
Sorry?
Why shouldn't they break this down, this supplemental pay, where it's going?
It's actually broken down deeper into your agenda.
Yeah,
Let me see. Well,
So
B.
You have to go into the
I have
way
it
in the
here.
back that.
It's on 12D, third page,
12B,
12, what is it?
12D.
12C.
There it is. It's,
Oh,
if you
12.
look at,
C or B?
it's on page
Oh, here's 12,
105.
C or B?
Yeah, D, I believe.
Oh, D?
Page 105.
Oh, no.
I'll get it.
Yeah, I think it's 12, no, it's 12D.
You're almost there. 105, page 105.
Okay,
Those are all the line items.
Okay.
They're gonna get.
Thank you.
some are significant.
They're 5,000, 3,000, 7,000. They're all listed right there,
Yeah.
totaling 4750. 12,
Some are receiving an additional who are already receiving supplemental pay. I see. Okay. Okay, Lados.
Lados, I had not heard from anyone, but I don't mind.
Grant.
Good morning. Good morning, President Brown and Councilman and
Morning.
Council Lady. How are you today?
Morning.
Good morning. Just like the even year fund we did for the IDOC grant fund for fiscal year 2023, we're just asking to establish the even year fund for calendar year 2024 in anticipation of the award. We're just trying to be a little proactive.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Superior Court 4, Judge.
Oh, Judge came, yep. Hi, Judge.
Morning.
Asking for, we received a grant for our drug court and we needed some line items created so that we could start dispersing those funds and using them. That's what we're requesting today.
That was the amount of the grant, 10,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we've already been through the process of allowing Judge to apply for the grant and do everything. She's got the grant and,
Court's up and running.
right.
And item B, revised 144. That's part of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Judge. By item B.
It's all part of the grants. It's just showing how we are divvying up that money. When we applied for it, we had to list how we wanted to allocate it. That's what we've listed on the second portion. And the supplemental pay is for the coordinator. He's a full-time probation officer. This ends up being almost like a second job. So intense. So that's where the supplement goes to Brandon Donaldson.
Thank you. Any questions for Judge?
I don't know. I'm gonna ask here, does anybody have the necessity and the judge having to come up here Tuesday?
I have drug court Tuesday, but I could send somebody.
Oh, I'm asking. I haven't heard anybody say, no, we're good, Judge. Thank you so much.
A Drainage Board. Morning, Bill.
Morning.
Morning.
So, yeah, we're asking for an appropriation, $396,898.52. That represents the county's portion of the contribution to the Yellow River, Kankakee River, Yellow River Development Basin Commission fee. So normally it's met in our budget. By our paperwork, I thought it was requested in our budget, but apparently it didn't go through. So we're asking that to be appropriated.
I've been made aware that there's approximately 2.6 million in this fund of a surplus prior to this appropriation. Is that correct?
Those are related to county drainage board projects, not the Kankakee River commission fee.
Okay.
This would go directly to the Kankakee River, and they've been doing some really good projects in our stretch of the Kankakee River as well, with the state line bridge, bank repair, tree removal.
It's all relative, man. It's like it all backs up. It's every project they do, it just improves drainage everywhere. So
Yeah. So we'll make sure that that gets corrected for next year's budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Clerk?
So what funds that?
790.
Morning, Nick.
Rebecca and I are here from the Lake County Clerk's Office. Morning. I'd like to introduce Rebecca as our financial director. I don't believe that we've met her before. We are here this morning, basically on a office reorganization on a revised 144 for the entire office. I see on the agenda, we started with the elimination from the general fund of our Crescent Odyssey transition manager and moving her position into our perpetual fund, along with the necessary benefit appropriations that are needed. We had the opportunity to work together with Corey, Mr. Blanchard, and George, who was a great assistance in leading us hopefully into our direct requirements that they requested of us. Our final item on here is the revised 144 that George thought would be best placed into an ordinance since it involved maybe 90 employees. And that is also included.
Now, the clerk did contact me. We allow new officials, he came into office, we allow them a reorganization. So he found a way to do that, no extra dollars, requesting any extra dollars. My question is, where does the reduction for in office and administration, why does that occur? Is that from the reorg?
Well, we paid, we took just half of it here, we haven't paid for yet. We're gonna take that. From that salary. That would be the Odyssey transition that we're just.
Okay,
moving
all right.
To the 194.
Do you know if they ever?
Okay, so only part of it was paid out of that line item? Okay,
The first half of the year.
gotcha.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's for this year.
Chair.
Okay, anyone have any questions for the clerk? All right, thank you.
Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank-
Everybody that helped out.
Council Lady Sidney, you want to carry, is
Right.
you gonna be here? Do you want someone to carry that for you? That's on the
Sure.
committee, or I'm not sure who's sits on that committee with you, but.
Either. Sit on that, Clarius? I don't have the list in front of me.
I was gonna suggest, Council Lady Sid, to George, that maybe as like we look at our agenda, how it says juvenile courts, Councilman Ham,
Mhm.
maybe underneath the name, the two other chairpersons should be on there, that we had a quick
Members.
glance, we can say, okay, well, Councilman Ham's not here. So, I almost said Councilman Palmetier here.
No,
He's actually here today.
I know.
You don't have to call me. You have to have an alias today. If it's okay, I'll suggest that to George after our meeting.
I'm gonna get that
We had
straight,
that on
I
there.
promise. I like them both.
I can see
Yeah,
what
you're
you're
the
confused. I
one
mean,
that
they both
called
got
me
weird.
Sheena?
Let's
Depending on
not,
what
let's
part of
not
the
make
county
this
you're
up
in,
there,
right?
pal.
Morning.
Fire gets in less
Good morning.
trouble, right?
This is just a follow-up on Senate Bill 65 that was approved. So this is just a final request for $700,000. I worked with Larry to come up with this amount. So far this year, in 7 months, we spent, as a county, a total of $6,000 for training.
Oh.
$6,000 is what the recorder's office makes on the low end in one fund in 1 month. So that's where we came up with that amount. So I humbly request if we can transfer the $700,000 from the elected officials training fund to the recorder's perpetuation fund. I'd appreciate that.
Anybody got any questions?
Nope.
All right, great.
What would this, one question, what would this, once it's transferred, what would it be used for?
It would be solely used for our backlog project that we've been working on for almost 2 years now. It will help to continue that project. It'll help to speed that project
That'd
up.
be used to pay the vendor projects that are the vendor contracts that are working on it?
100%, yes.
What is
Covering
current,
about 5 million documents from 1969 to 2020.
and currently that fund is being used to pay those contracts?
Yes, it is.
And are there sufficient funds in there to pay the contracts that have been taken out?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Any further questions? All right, commissioners, anyone here?
No, but I think I have to make a motion for A, open up the public hearing, allow for remonstration, and then I'll make a motion to approve on 2 readings. I'll look for both on the bonds for item B.
Very good. Lake County Prosecutor. Morning, Jacobs.
We are requesting a resolution to pay 2 2022 bills and then 8 2021 bills to Shoots Hamburgers. These are for meals that we give our victims and their families when they're here for trials and are staying late when their jury trials go past 4. And then our second request is a transfer of 20,000 from our in our 7135 fund in our discretionary salaries to furniture and pictures.
Any questions from anyone? All right, thank you, Jacob.
Thank you.
Parks
They're a
and
little slow
Recreation.
on their billing, huh?
Yeah. Speed up a bit.
Real simple, we, permission to apply for a grant. We're working with NERC to put in 2 EV charging stations, one at Bellaboo's, one at the water park. I know NERC is working with or on NIPSCO to see if they'd be the local match. So putting in, and actually you'll have to pay for your electricity when you charge your car.
You get money back from that? I know some people.
It'll be a charge card operation.
Okay.
That was my question. I wasn't gonna give away free electricity,
Right.
you know.
So I know some people that have installed them, they actually get money back as part of installing it. It's
I
like
don't know that-
it's a small profit center.
Yeah, I don't know, but for us, it'll be if somebody plugs in, they're gonna have to pay for the charge.
Gotcha.
So that's
So
why
one station at each park.
one at each to start. Actually, I saw,
Backwards to show.
it gets confusing because the one station might actually be 2 charging ports. Not all cars take the same port. And that's kind of the problem with EV right now, you know. You've got car A, I've got car B, and you don't fit in that charging port.
Better be fully charged.
Be fully charged. But if I may, before I leave, you know, I've
Yeah.
got some marketing materials for you folks. You got nothing to do on the weekend. At Deep River, we always have our vintage baseball program on July 16th. Well, let's just, I'll be in April. We also have the South Shore Brass Band performing before the game. They're really good. So if you've never heard them play, you've never seen a bunch of old guys playing baseball.
Well, we just see what the grant says.
Be prepared to be entertained. And I invite you, it's a free program. Bring your chairs, bring your food. We have a hot dog cart, but really it's It's a good Sunday afternoon to just enjoy.
Did the butterfly thing already occur at Gibson's Woods or?
Ooh, I believe
Don't know.
so, because Karen was in my office and they had a monarch that they had raised in a cage and they were doing a release. So,
Great.
thank
Jim,
you.
Jim, just a real quick question. With that non-diverting fund, Jean Ann, did we look into, does the grant establish whether or not we have to have a non-diverting fund? So in the event this does, because Pete brought up a very good valid question, this could become a popular thing, this EV charging stations. So as it becomes income generating, that money would somehow make it back to your funds over there that's maintaining and taking care of those stations. But do we need to create an ordinance or a resolution with a non-diverting fund?
It's right here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, it's in Fund 1116.
Never, it doesn't, 1116.
Department is partnering with NERC on this. So, and this is from a federal grant, so, they've only applied, it hasn't been awarded. And I know in the guidelines, there were some ways to get some fees, but I don't know what NERC included in their application.
Typically, we would put it in, depending if it's operational or more capital, we would put it either to our non-reverting 116 account,
Right.
where we run a lot of our grants out of, or into our 117 operating. I would put it into our operating.
That makes sense. I
Because
agree.
we're using electricity, we're paying it back, therefore it's an operational expense.
Absolutely. Okay.
We have the mechanism unless the feds say otherwise.
And then if we're good, I have no other questions.
Okay,
You want me here Tuesday or we good? Thank you much. Everybody have a good weekend.
Can I get started now?
that agenda went quicker than I thought, actually. Okay, County Council, we have a petition to vacate.
So this is vacation of a public way in Shelby for the establishment and building of a pretty large community center there from donations of the Dean and Barbara White Foundation. So in order for this to go through the planning process, this right of way would have to be vacated. So I'm in full support of this.
And the ordinance to follow.
Same thing. Yep.
Have a resolution.
This is Matt's event. Yeah, so this is, we have Mr. Reardon here today as well as Mr. Babcock. This is to update an item from 2017 that was a tax abatement for the cold storage facility. So Matt, if you would.
Thank you, Council. Matt Reardon, I'm Sierra Partners. I have Don Babcock with me from the LCEA. He's the interim director. And after a long and arduous due diligence period, the good people of U.S. Cold Storage not only decided that Lake County was a good place for it, but bought more land and are investing more money. And just the general basics of it, the parcels that were declared in ERA, it's about 106 acres. The current tax revenue generated on those is about $2,800. At the end of 10 years, you will have collected in real and personal property about 4.3 million. So that's a pretty good deal all day. In addition to that, it's going to create some employment opportunities at a wage that is much greater than the state average. And before I get into this too far, I'm going to turn it over to Leslie Wagner with the Genovius Group. She's going to introduce the people from U.S. Cold Storage. They were so excited that we got everything cleared up and ready to go. Leslie has handouts about the project, but I will say a couple of overviews. This is a solid company with a great reputation and has similar projects throughout the country. As Don and I were digging back into the due diligence of this, and I would be remiss if I didn't send out a thank you to Karen Lauerman and Don Kolobowski for all of their hard work in carrying this ball forward. And so here we are. I'm gonna turn it over to Leslie. She's gonna run through this. Yeah, I think you're gonna love it. It's a good start. And there's one thing I think that's important I'd like to communicate with this. The discussions about how this area got developed, it was critical that water and sewer were extended to this area. And the general feelings of the commissioners about continued development out here is that without water and sewer, we should be cognizant of what is being developed in the county and how to minimize the use of water or well and septic wherever possible. So this is the start. of that on 2 and 65. And we'll continue working with the commissioner's office along with the surveyor's offices and planning department to figure out what's the next step for the utilities, where the money can come from, and how to continue the project. Thank you.
Good morning, Leslie Wagner with Genovis, and here with me, and thanks to Matt and Don. Here with me is Adam Ashley, General Manager for United States Cold Storage, and also Jim Duffy, who is the Senior Project Manager. Some of you may remember us from 2017 when this project initiated, and for a number of reasons, and I've given you lots of project information in front of you, but you run your meetings very efficiently and we want to hold true to that. But this project has been a long time coming for a variety of reasons, pandemic, but also United States Cold Storage taking a step back, deploying their first fully automated facility in McDonough, Georgia, Henry County, Georgia, and learning from that build what a truly automated facility will be. So this project has morphed into a $40 million project into a $120 million project, which required a bit more land. Adam, I know you don't want to hear from me. I've worked with U.S. Cold Storage and a lot of facilities all across the U.S., but Adam's the guy that has responsibility for building the facility, so please feel free to add project specifics.
Sure. Morning, Council. My name is Adam Ashley with U.S. Cold Storage. I'm the manager of the Lebanon, Indiana facility. Also, in late 2019, was put in charge of this facility to get this built, commissioned, and operating. As Leslie stated, the investment has changed from 2017. At that time, it was $40 million. I think roughly average wage for non-exempt employees was in a $35,000, $40,000 range. The investment has changed, $120 million. And then as time has gone on and the unique nature of this facility, when you say automated, a lot of technical background needed. The average wage for non-exempt employees is now in 2025, when we open, projected to be at $60,000. It has been a long time coming. It's, obviously 2020 now, a lot of challenges there. So open to any questions you may have. You have a presentation in front of you on just an overview of U.S. Cold Storage, our parent company, and this site as a whole. So welcome any questions you may have.
Go ahead.
Mr. Ashley, just when we first started, I've been along with this project for quite a while and we're really excited to see it finally come into fruition. Now that some of the players have changed from when I initially sat down. I was promised that you guys, as you got ready to get shovels in the ground, you would let us know some projected start dates, that we would be assured that Cold Storage was going to work with Northwest Indiana Building Trades under a project labor agreement, what type of specialty things. So we were assured these things coming into it. And I don't know what's changed since then. Has anything, and I just got this. So if it's in there, I apologize. But I'm sitting here looking across from one of our representatives from Northwest Indiana Building Trades. So I'm assuming Randy might have that same issue as, have we met? Have you guys talked yet?
Yeah, I've had conversations with her actually, but we have nothing.
No PLA yet, or? Okay. I just was curious.
And I will echo what Mr. Bldg is talking about, that in the district that I represent, which would be where this facility is located. A great deal of the people I represent are union workers. They're blue collar union folks. So it's important in that area to have some consideration for that. Thank you.
Right, if I could, when we re-engaged with the project, we were sharing information back and forth, and Councilman Bldg, the need to use local employees and contractors was stressed. We shared the list from Dewey, presuming everything goes swimmingly next week. We're ready to finalize and sit down with the building trades and knock this out. It was not something that anybody was pushing back on. We just needed to get through the plan commission to this point. and make sure the project was correctly incentivized or actually, so we could move forward on it. It really was a, big part of the project. So they already have all the information for everybody and we're pretty motivated.
I mean, we just felt it a little ghosted, that's all, because we did, you mean, the whole project just fell off, it just went away, gone. No one heard nothing.
Surprise coming back.
It's exactly it was.
Worked on this when I was back in Digital in 2017, so it's a long time coming. That's an example of how long it takes to get to the big project, especially, $120 million investment, not small.
No, it's not. It's very worthwhile. And I know we had a lot of hangups and hiccups prior to that meeting coming into with the drainage, the sewer issues and powers that be didn't, we had a good group that moved it forward. I just, I'm excited to see it finally.
I put Matt's comments relative to Don Kalabowski and Karen Lyman's participation. We got to file at least this thing in the office and try to help this thing move along.
And just for the council's sake, this was recently fully vetted once again at the Plan Commission. So there was opportunity for the public to ask questions and have them answered. So that engagement is all done and I fully support your efforts.
So on the timeline here, it says mobilization and site prep, right? Yeah, you guys, you're ready to go. You'll start moving dirt here in the next month or so.
No, the next week.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's good.
And so,
For Tuesday, we hope to be there by Wednesday.
Okay.
yeah,
Who's
back-
doing the dirt work. You guys self-performing or what's that?
We have a general contractor that, provided a list of bidders, so that their work has been awarded.
Can I ask who the general contractor is?
You certainly can. I don't think it is. The general contractor. Oh, the general contractor is United Insulative Structure. They've done several facilities for us around the country, especially in the West there. Built Lebanon, Indiana, built 2 facilities in Illinois and Oklahoma.
Can you drop us up the list of the contractors, what the projected start date and when the list of the subcontractors that are going to be out there? So obviously the general's going to subcontract the dirt work to Dyer or Gary up somebody with the equipment to move that kind of dirt, I'm hoping. Or are we bringing someone up from Kentucky up here to do our work? Arkansas, Michigan, you take your pick. Yeah, right. Well, it's just still important to me that we use local contractors, so.
Like share the bidders list, the local list with the general contractor and in advance, we also engage local contractors to have an opportunity to bid the work prior to receiving that list.
What was the name of that company again? United Insulated? Okay. That's out of Berkeley, Illinois.
Division of Power Construction, which is.
Power Construction. I see it here.
First question was general contractor. The answer was yes. They said, okay, that's a good start. Then we're going to get Dewey on the phone and share the list with them, but I'll sit down with Randy.
List of subs.
Papered and list of subs to make sure that to the greatest.
None of us want to be embarrassed with a labor strike. You know, you come in there, these outside contractors come in here, they start bringing these folks in at substandard wages and benefits, and they start coming in across the board, every border around here. You'll see it's like an ooze coming into here to undercut our contractors, and they're not making a livable wage. And I know my old union will definitely put up signs and shut it down if there's non-union trucks on that job. So we just I want to avoid that. So that's what this reason I'm asking.
Is a union shop. That's what we'll be contractors.
It looks like they've done some projects in Chicago, so I would suspect that they would be a union shop.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know. I don't know about Illinois.
Questions from anyone else?
They're kind of wacky, man.
Thank you. You'll be here Tuesday in case.
we will be here on Tuesday.
review
Would you
this.
like us to run through this full presentation on Tuesday, or what is your expectation?
Can I just
I
touch
just
on this
like-
really
Yes.
quickly, just so the council understands? I've spoken to Steve McKinney from the Department of Local Government Finance, and
this council already determined it was an economic revitalization area, so they're not mandating a public hearing on it. All that DLGF wants is the statement of benefits, which Matt got to us. It's in your packet, and it reflects the amount of benefit in real property development and personal property development. And that's really what the council is voting on, is the tax abatement in the period of 10 years. And that's what the DLGF is looking for, is the statement of benefits.
Okay. All right,
Good.
thank you.
Thank
very
you all.
much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Talk.
Next is, this is for one of our staff members. It's revised 144. Anyone have any questions regarding that? Consummate appointments. Safety Communications Commission, one member, who sits now on there? Do we know?
George might be able to answer that. I don't know.
What's in them?
It's basically the 911 board.
Is it?
Yeah.
D, 21D is in David.
Christine?
Oh, I do. Oh, that's 911. I'm sorry. Okay.
It's so exciting, right?
Okay. Next is the Justice Coordinating Committee, Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee. 2 members sitting on that now. Yeah, that's the one we created when.
I haven't been getting, have you been getting your updates from them on the jail population? I know the sheriff and warden, I haven't gotten one
No?
this last month, but I've had some phone issues, so it could be on my end.
Yeah, I have been receiving it. Everyone else receiving that, the jail population reports?
No.
No?
I don't think I ever have.
I didn't get it, maybe the last 2 months.
I'll check. I'll make sure the sheriff sends
Thank
it to.
And neither have I.
Well, because we're pretty much consistent at around 700 a day, and then in the last week jumped over 800 inmates a day, which is scary. That's too many folks in that.
Is there a reason for that?
It fluctuates, but
Is it like summer is different?
Lots of
I think that's a great
Why didn't
question
we
for the
like holding them
prosecuting
for
attorney's
the-
office. I think if the prosecutor would be willing to put more people on work release.
we've already tried to.
Right, it just doesn't seem. to
Yeah,
work.
that's,
We have a judge. I don't know why they won't.
They won't put them in work release?
I mean, are they afraid of, bracelets as opposed to locking them up? Is it the fear that they're gonna go out and, I don't know.
For a period of time, work release was complete. Other accepting people who were pre-sentence,
Was that a COVID thing why they weren't, or?
why they did it. It just came out recently though, last 2 months. I know we've been holding people longer for certain things, usually. At least in the county division, look at it in the big scheme of things, county felony.
Right.
They did something stupid that day, and they've been in a couple days, get them out, or if there's a plea agreement coming where it's time served, get them out, have them come in. We have a lot of mental health issues where these people are just, I have at least 10 people, they come out, they get arrested, go back in. And it's to the point where I can't just let them lose this like.
How do we address, I mean, that's a national issue.
It's a huge problem across the board.
I don't know what we do. We have no, I mean, the only mental health we have here right now is on the 4th floor at the jail, right?
Yeah.
Seems like it. There's no mental health facilities here to really handle that.
But I mean, when it's nice out, we get a lot more stuff coming up and.
She can help us with the
There
problem.
you go. There, bars, you're right under the, Dave just brought you into, you're right under the bus, didn't he?
No, I said, can we talk? But I saw Barb earlier and I thought maybe she's still here.
Hi, Barb.
Barb, we just had a brief conversation. We were very concerned because the jail population is on a rise. We always know there's a jail season, so when people can get outside, have a beer and a barbecue, they start doing bad things. Unfortunately, but we need to curb that population. We don't have the staffing at the jail. We don't have the affordability to pay the overtime, and there's a burnout rate. So more of the safety of not only the correctional officers, but the other prisoners. How do we get that number under 700 from now jumping way over 800 per day?
All right, do you know how many are in there for felonies and how many are in for misdemeanors?
Not offhand, but.
Well, that's,
there's
that
a
report would help.
yeah.
We start addressing it at the misdemeanor level and then work on the lower level felons. And there are going to be individuals that cannot be.
Would it be assisting if we reactivated the jail oversight committee to address that issue specifically with the public defender, with the prosecutor, with the warden, with the sheriff, and really have a heart-to-heart meeting saying, hey, look we need to curb this jail population by 150 people safely, efficiently, and it's mostly for our staff and the safety of others. So I think we need to do that.
We need to attend, I'll be there.
I would defer to Councilor Sid. I mean, it's.
And identify individuals that are being held that are not a safety risk if they are released and that, that they will appear at the next court date. So I think we can, start to slowly.
That would be awesome.
The Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, that's in existence now, but I don't know do they meet? Have you been called to a meeting? Mr. Lake, I noticed you sit on,
Yes, I think that we had, they may have had two meetings. I missed one because I had a
17
previous
years ago.
engagement.
Is the prosecutor a member of that? It says there's 13 voting members and 4 non-voting members. We'll have to, Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee.
Councilwoman Sid, if I may.
Yes.
That committee meets on a monthly basis. And in addition, we've been doing the evidence-based modeling work through this year with our consultant. Denise Simden is her name. And so it is designed to specifically address the issues that are being raised by the council right now. I would also indicate to the council that last year, the state legislature passed a law as it relates to individuals that are out on electronic monitoring in terms of notification requirements where there is an identifiable victim and the time frame in which people need to be notified of a breach of any sort of ICU monitoring that may occur. Based upon that, I can tell the council that a number of the judges, because in the statute it talks about gross negligence on behalf of the judicial officers and their personal liability. I know that that's one of the reasons why they have reduced the number of people that are out on ICU monitoring where there are identifiable victims. I mean, it's like a 15-minute time frame under the new statute that law enforcement needs to be notified and that the alleged victim needs to be notified of any sort of breach of the ICU monitoring. So I know that that has played a role into why the number of individuals or the jail population has increased and that they have not been placed on ICU monitoring.
I do recall the sheriff wanting to, he recommended a vendor for the bracelets, correct?
You did?
Yeah.
It was a price. I know we were paying a considerable amount more for the current one we were on. And there was
Did it ever change? I thought it remained the same. I thought the commissioners, didn't you keep the
Is this,
same?
this is an odd month. The sheriff doesn't have anything on the agenda, does he?
It did remain. I'm sorry, Councilman Ham, I apologize.
That's all right. Go ahead, man.
It did remain the same, and it wasn't a matter of who the provider was. It was a matter of the change of the law in terms of the notification as to why the number of people being placed on ICU monitoring or electronic monitoring went down. In addition, Judge Kappas, who is on the oversight over at Lake County Community Corrections, he had concerns about pretrial placement at Lake County Community Corrections because of the contract that pretrial services has with releasing individuals to ICU monitoring versus the company that Community Corrections uses. as well as some other issues that had come up. So that was the reason why pretrial placement over at Lake County Community Corrections ceased here in the last month or two, until all the information could be gathered to make sure that we're in compliance with state statute. Because as you know, Lake County Community Corrections receives a bulk of its funding from the Indiana Department of Corrections. And so we wanted to make sure that we weren't running afoul of that.
I had a question. Councilman Lay and I had a discussion, brief discussion. So who's got the contract for is it the local company or the company out of, what is it, California or something?
Yeah, ICU Monitoring, which is the local company, has the contract for pretrial services release. Sentinel Services is the company that Lake County Community Corrections uses. And typically that is post-sentencing, where individuals are placed over at Lake County Community Corrections as a part of their sentence or disposition. And at that point, Lake County Community Corrections does its own evaluation of individuals as to whether or not they can be on house arrest, day reporting, etc. And the contract that Community Corrections has is with Sentinel Services.
Okay.
I'm not sure I understand your answer. Who has the contract very specifically? Is it a local group, which I believe is headed up, let's use the name Herb Smith.
Smith's company, IC,
Yes.
whatever.
That's ICU Monitoring, Councilman Lay, and that is for the pretrial services release. So in lieu of bond or in addition to bond, prior to cases being disposed of, either through trial or through a plea agreement or through a dismissal or pretrial diversion, Herb Smith's group has that contract. Once somebody enters a plea and they're found guilty, or they go to trial and they're found guilty and they are sentenced, if Lake County Community Corrections is a component of that sentence, then Lake County Community Corrections contract is with a company by the name of Sentinel Services.
Okay, I'm a little confused. What is Judge Kappa's talking about? What is his letter about? I haven't seen this letter. What is he saying? Something about they didn't understand the law, they have greater liability, the judges?
Well, the liability to the judges deals with ICU monitoring, meaning pretrial release on ICU monitoring. The issue as to community corrections is whether or not pretrial placement at Lake County Community Corrections is appropriate, given the fact that they receive, some of their funding is from the DOC for post-sentencing placement.
Now, is that the law that came in existence in July 1, 2022? They just now understanding that law, the judges?
No, they have been slowly but surely reducing the number of individuals being placed on ICU monitoring.
Well, are they in compliance with the spirit and intent of the contract with the Board of Commissioners?
That would be a question that you would have to ask of the judges.
Which judge that I could ask? Which judge should I ask?
Judge Vasquez is the senior judge in the felony division, and Judge Cantrell, I believe, is the senior judge in the county division, Councilman.
Okay, I'd be more than happy to ask either one of them. Thank you.
And again, I apologize, Councilman Ham. I know I interrupted you and I took a long time when I did.
That's okay, Matt.
Oh, that's
all right.
Hey, Matt, just briefly, as in the conversations with the commissioners and in the state of Indiana, have you guys heard of anything that the federal government, Democrat or Republican, don't care at this point, state of Indiana doing anything to come up with any kind of funding sources for us to maintain a mental health facility and to either build a new one to take care of some of this stuff in the jail? Because I really do believe there's people that are incarcerated and they shouldn't be because they just don't have the mental capacity.
Senate Bill 4 was passed this last session. I think Councilman Niemeyer would agree with me that that bill is rather cumbersome to get through. And we are working through the process of reading that. I think we have until September 1 to opt in or opt out of those monies that are available. But I can tell you that those monies are significant. So perhaps it's something worth having a discussion over now that Senate Bill 4 is the law of the state of Indiana.
Matt, I would suggest, maybe once Councilman Brown and Council Lady Sid or get a chance to talk, that maybe we have a joint executive session to discuss that sometime before the end of the year.
So the only thing we have for mental health in the county is that fourth floor that I saw in the gym.
For the incarcerated. Now, as our attorney was advising, each hospital has a mental ward. But can we send a criminal there? Can we take them out of there and put them there? So we have to lock them up here. We have to keep them here, but it's probably not the right place for them. I don't know if they're getting the right care either.
And Matt is correct. Senate Bill 4 is fraught with potholes and snake pits and everything else that you see in a lot of legislation. There's no such thing as free money. So it's necessary for us to read the fine points. I've read all 37 pages of the bill, and it's one of those that kind of makes me scratch my head in certain places. So hopefully we can work through some of those details.
I guess I would also indicate that Senate Bill 1 also has $50 million available for mental health statewide. So, I mean, there are some monies that are available.
Matt, where are you at with the health board? Are they going to make a written recommendation to the Board of Commissioners?
I have not gotten any indication from them as of yet. So,
Well, I would hope we would light a fire here.
I talked to Nick Doffin about this because it is a nice pool of money if the council could get a hold of it. And he said that they did mention at their last Board of Health meeting this month, and the mechanism is that they have to make a recommendation to the commissioners, and the commissioners need to opt in or opt out. So they are talking about it. So that's
by September.
By September 1.
So, I mean, if it were to occur, I think the vote would occur at the August meeting. And it's a simple resolution of opting in or opting out.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Domestic violence, we had the clergy member, we need to appoint a clergy member. Well, we may, so I have JJ in your packet. You see JJ Harrison is willing to sit on that committee, on that team. He's from Barrington Church in Holbert. Okay, Convention and Visitors Bureau. I believe we've heard from the gentleman. Salvador, yeah.
Which one's that, Chris?
What's
What's the number on it?
Get out of here since she's
Yeah,
here.
I was gonna say, we're done. We have the
Cool.
library boards.
And then, Madam Chair, at the end,
So, yeah,
if I may jump back to 18B at the end, once this is over, it's okay.
go ahead, Randy. What do you want to do?
I have some questions on the judgment bond ordinances also. I'd say finish the
No,
exact
we'll
side
have-
of the
Have
study
Randy
session.
here.
Yeah.
Wants to give an update on our.
Thank you.
So.
And Randy, first off, thanks for reaching out. That as our appointee, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come give us an update of where you've been. It's pretty good. I wish we got it a little more.
You can start demanding then.
First off, I appreciate everyone,
Man,
confidence in me.
Can you use the mic so the others on the online?
So I appreciate everybody's confidence in me to have. Thank you, Gary. Not only a finance guy, huh? Like I said, I appreciate the Lake County Council and Board of Commissioners' confidence in me to sit on the Lake County Regional Development Authority. I succeeded Lou Martinez. I'm coming in because there's a few new council members up here. And I was told that I should probably come in and give an update. I usually did. I was probably one of the only appointees from the boards that would come in and give an update. So normally I hate reading off a piece of paper, but I'm gonna have to because there was so much information. Me and Sherry put the original piece together was 3 pages. I said, I'm not gonna read 3 pages, so I'm gonna read through this. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, just hold it to the end and then we can talk about it. So the first half of the year, 2023, the RDA's continue. I'm gonna read fast. If I'm going too fast, let me know. Corey, you got me? You good? All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
2023, RDA has continued to monitor the Westlake and Double Track projects in its capacity as the fiscal agent for these projects. As of May, the Westlake design work was 87% complete. Construction was 23% complete. Construction remains on schedule to finish in May of 2025, with the revenue service scheduled to commence in May of 2026. On the Double Track, overall construction is 54% complete. The project remains in schedule to finish construction this year. So me being on an appointment from your body, with my construction background, I'm able to know a little bit more about this stuff and ask the right questions at the meeting. And we actually have a project labor agreement on the Westlake project, which ensured a lot more local participation. There was actually a minority inclusion participation clause that I added in the veterans helmets to hard hats that the building trades has sponsored. So them are both implemented on that project, so everybody knows, on top of the federal requirements and everything else. Some of this is cumbersome, I'm gonna probably skip over that. I mean, you guys can read where the TODs are at. So we got Munster Dyer Main Street, Munster Ridge Road, Hammond Gateway downtown, East Chicago, Gary Metro downtown, Gary Miller, Portage, Ogden Dunes, and then Michigan City going into LaPorte. MKSK was our consultant, has also concluded the TOD enabling steps for Dunn Park, Beverly Shores, the South Bend Airport. The process has culminated in reports that have been completed for each of these areas. MSKS is working with the RDA to review these with the local units contingent upon availability within communities to review these at the leadership and staff level, which, you know, those little committees were put together in each one of these towns and cities, and they went through all these. And if anybody that was open to the public, anybody could have showed up. The RDA is now finalizing the timeline for establishing the transit development districts in South Hammond, downtown Gary, Portage, Beverly Shores. They plan on holding the same process as we did in 2022, which would likely occur mid to late summer of 2023. London Witt has completed its annual RDA finance interim controls audit, which is right here. So I have a save trees. I do have this audit here. I'm going to leave it with you if you guys want to check it out like a library. If not, I will send you it. I have it in email format, but I'll leave it up here if anybody wants to look at it. It has been approved by the State Board of Accounts. That letter is the cover letter, but this is the financial audit for 21-22.
But one question I have for you. Thank you.
Guys, I'll give it to Carol Cody, keep it in her desk. That way we usually do, she'll have a file on it. And then if you want to read the report, just get it out of that file and then we can keep it in there.
So Randy, I noticed there's reconstruction of the metro station. Any consideration of funding for buses or?
So, and I did get calls on that. There was Mary Tanis actually called me from Dyer. A lot of our money is tied up. I know you keep hearing this. I know Randy Niemeyer's heard this. Ted's heard it. Pete, I'm sure you heard it. I know I've been working with Commissioner Tippy on a few things. So a lot of the money in our bonding power is tied up with this Westlake and Double Track until that starts getting paid out and we start getting that money back in the bank or getting the percentages back to where they should be. We should have that money to start doing that. We didn't get, and a lot of that's grants. That's what people don't realize. Like the Dyer, I don't know what they call that. Who's got Dyer? The bus thing they got out there that Mary Tanis, Councilman Tanis called me about. A lot of that was grants that were not filled out properly. So no, we're willing to continue to do the surface transportation, not just the train. We are bound by legislation, which does change. And that's if you read the last paragraph, there's some legislation that we're looking into. I'm down there in my capacity as the building trades. So I actually help out down there because it fits into my purview as far as what I'm doing down there with the trades. I can help Sherry Ziller out and work on RDA stuff without there being a conflict. It actually falls right into my purview. But yeah, specific questions, I would have to ask Sherry Ziller, get back to her to get back to you guys about. If you have anything, I would suggest that you throw it in writing, shoot me an email or a text, and I'll be happy to get the answers to them questions.
I have just some general commentary. I've been frustrated by the RDA's focus on one particular area, it seems, of the region, right? It's a regional development authority. And I've talked with several legislators about this, that it takes a more regional focus. Obviously, I represent the southern part of this county, but if you look at growth and where the population's moving to, it's moving to that area. And there's absolutely zero focus by the RDA on those areas as it relates to certain opportunities for economic development. I know that the state of Indiana through the IEDC is looking for areas to develop what they call the economy of tomorrow. And I know that South Lake County is a target. And there is going to be a need for consideration of that as it relates to legislation that might change the availability of the RDA to invest in certain projects in other parts of the region, because it seems like the region has become a sub-region that's focused really along that lake shore. And that seems to be the focal point that I am frustrated with, because none of those dollars get steered into the areas of growth.
And I've heard that from you, and I appreciate, and I will take that back to Sherry, but as you know, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing, but and I'm one person on the board. Okay, I know, no, that's what I'm here for. Shoot, shoot arrow, beat me up, whatever. I'll take it back. And I agree. I live in St. John, so I understand. I mean, I'm from Gary, but I live in St. John. I agree. Don't put that in the paper, Dan. I agree with what you just said. I think after.
It is on the record, Randy.
Okay, whatever. So after I think the train projects are done, I think you're gonna see a shift go to South County for some development projects. You gotta remember that, I remember, 5-6 years ago, they took one of our 5, what we did, Marquette Plan, Lakeshore Airport, they took economic development out of because we were building parks at the time, and I wasn't on the board of that. It was Lee Morris and that group. They were building parks in Portage. So that's when the legislator said, hey, we're not doing that no more. So the economic development component was too broad. So I've been talking with Senator Niemeyer and Ed Salde about getting that back in, and then maybe putting some caveats of what exactly we can and can't do, so we don't go back to building parks.
I appreciate that, Randy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We appreciate the update. I would say that I also would hope that in the future, if there's any legislation that concerns this body, that you would bring that. to our
Okay,
attention as
absolutely.
well.
Yeah, and I communicate through Ted. I talked to Rick Cockrum down there also. So, but yes, absolutely. I'd be happy to put a quarterly or month. If I'm down in session, which I'm down there, I pretty much live in Indy for 4 months. I can put something together weekly for you guys if you'd like. So. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Randy.
Back to the agenda, we have the interlocal agreements. Do you have any questions on those? 27th payroll. Mark, are you here for that? Scott, are you still online? No, okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Do you want to discuss the 27th payroll?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just comes down to the ramifications of how it will be handled for next year's budget in terms of what the capabilities are from a payroll processing standpoint. Are there alternatives, and what's the consequences to those alternatives? So it's my first time going through it for the county. My understanding in the past, basically they would take a person's salary and divide it by 26 and then just pay out 27 pays. So I'm just trying to understand where that's at and how that will look with Oracle, and are there alternatives to avoid paying 4% more than a salary ordinance would dictate for any individual payment.
You have anything to add to that, Mark?
Well, first of all, nothing's impossible. What I would be concerned about is whatever you come up with, we're running into a real time strain here. The system, regardless what you do, is going to have to be reconfigured. Okay, we just spent a year and a half putting the current system we have in place together, and we're still working out issues. It's not affecting your paychecks, but we're working out issues in the background. This could be could be a major project jammed in a very short period of time. And the one thing, I've been here 50 years. We've been doing payroll for 50 years. We have never missed a payroll. I would keep that in mind, that if whatever you do.
How did they handle the 26 pay periods?
27.
Or 27 rather.
This was developed years and years ago. All right, and we had time to work with it. We redid things. This is probably 20, 25 years ago and made it work. Now to go back again is an effort, but it's a time constraint also, depending on the solution you come up with.
The simplest solution to me, Mark, would be that we just get the money, we write an additional, we just add the pay it off.
You could do that.
And then the determination comes on, because that money is going to come out of the percentage of pay raises that we were going to give county employees. So this is going to be a $1 million. Scott, you have the exact figure, I'm sure, at your fingertips. To write the check, to add the additional pay period and pay it off.
Well, the levy accounts will be about $4 million.
Yeah.
So bi-monthly pay is out of the question?
Oh,
That would eliminate the.
I would say
27.
nothing's out of the question. It's just a matter of they're two different animals. They process differently.
That would eliminate the.
So we have,
monthly.
I don't know if you even know this answer. What percentage of county employees are hourly versus salaried?
I
think they're all hourly based on a salary ordinance, meaning that they all are entitled to overtime unless.
But how many people are actually punching a clock?
Everybody.
Well, no, they're not punching clocks. They're writing stuff down. But are they because their salary is, they're expected to work a certain amount of hours, but they're still a salaried employee. Just from whatever it's worth, my opinion is obviously hourly employees, if they're turning in time cards, they work 37 hours this week, 42 last week. I don't know how that all works here.
It's the highway department, public works, they're definitely doing
So I
that.
think
The jail employees.
Those employees should get paid their hourly wage on every payroll. That doesn't change. But if a salary employee, I think you just take whatever their salary is, divide it by 27 and pay it that way. So you have hourly and you have salaried. That way you can still put in your percentage increase for whatever their salary increase is going to be. Because otherwise, if you say, oh, we're going to forego a salary increase, then next year we're going to have the problem where they didn't technically get an increase in 24.
I think we should look into the average salary so that we don't cause hardship for someone making, $27,000 a year. And they're counting on that paycheck because they are living paycheck to paycheck. And now we just told you, we're only going to pay you twice a month. You got to stretch it out, make it go 2 weeks. Is that?
Well, you're still getting paid.
Is that a hardship that we're willing to
course
put
of the
people
year.
through?
Over the course of the year, you're still.
You have
getting
people,
sick.
you can change this. I know when I set up my payments, I spend them some on the 15th of the month, some on the 1st of the month. So it's just whatever Mark said, whatever we want to do, we can do. And you're right. However, for every action, there's a reaction and we could cause some hardships by doing this.
How many people in departments are paid through at least part of their salary if they're getting 27,000 a year are bumped up due to supplemental pays, and how is that impacted? That's the other question.
And there's a considerable amount of supplemental pay out there.
Yeah.
That you have to deal with.
Honestly, say, can I ask Scott? Scott, can you hear me?
Yep.
Scott, do you think you can throw a couple of options and email to us and that we could look at and just like a ABC type, let's look at the end result, the fiscal impact, and then we can make a decision, maybe have an executive session to decide. I don't want to cause all of your staff, Gina, or your staff, Judge, panicking. Oh, they're gonna change everything, and we're not gonna make a knee-jerk reaction. But if you can give us a couple of things to look at, and that way we don't have time on our side, but we can maybe come up with a better comprehensive plan if we have 3 choices in front of us. I'd like to make that as a suggestion.
I don't know that we can have an executive committee meeting, but we could have the finance committee meet.
You can on pay raises and pay, establishing pay?
No budgetary items.
Personnel.
Oh, not budgetary, but this wouldn't be about personnel.
Negotiations is what you're thinking, Ted.
Well, what if you were talking about percentage increases and what are we gonna give a percentage for a salary increase for all employees? can't do it, huh?
Do it.
There's no reason not to do it in the public.
Yeah, I mean, make a decision and that way you can start communicating to employees.
I'm not trying to do
So they
cloak and
know.
dagger. I hate that kind of bullshit, but quite frankly, I just didn't want to cause a lot of heartache for folks hearing this, thinking that we're going to flip over the apple crate or
Yeah.
knock the game board
You
over.
don't need to panic.
Right. And that's what we do when we don't. That's why I thought
Right now.
possibly if we can discuss what the payout would be, just to write a check, a stipend, if you would. Here's your 27th pay period right now. Here's a check to everybody.
Minus
Get a bonus check.
Pete's concern, which is very valid with the hourly and salary. I'd love to see those bi-monthly pays because two things would happen. It would eliminate the problem for all future. Number two, it'd actually give them a little more money on their paycheck they're getting twice a month.
We have to
we
be
still can't,
negotiated with the CBAs for the sheriff's department, the judge, I mean, the highway department, public works.
I don't think
It's in
that's
their
part of a
CBA says that they're
negotiation.
guaranteed 8, not 40, and their overtime after a pay period will be on this date. It's spelled out in the CBA.
we still can't,
Negotiate it. Just
Hourly
just sharing you that.
is a pay.
we still can't forget those supplemental pays either because the salary ordinance doesn't paint the whole picture of impact. So I think that we have to figure out how we can calculate that out too.
Okay, any other questions for Scott or Mark at this point?
Scott, is that too much of an order to ask? Or we just gotta pick one each ourselves? And
No,
I was just trying to.
I'll get with Mark and see what work is to get, what are the realistic options at this point? I don't want to throw out options that are not even realistic. So Mark and I can get together and discuss the capabilities of what we can get done.
I would like that, Council Lady said, if you would agree to that and move it forward.
Do those, yeah, absolutely. That's where we're at. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate that.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
And discussion of contracts for Zarmak and Bishop. Pete.
Yeah, if we could have this discussion now, we could do it on Tuesday.
Okay.
I talked with Tom a little bit about, what we had going on, and this isn't personal. I emailed Ray and talked to him about it. So it's open, honest conversation. I just think from my perspective, you want to do it at a very basic level. When I got to fix a hot water heater, I don't call 2 plumbers. I think that there was a transition to 2 plumbers to come and fix it at the same time. I think there was.
I get 2
I can
estimates.
get quotes.
I want to do your water heater for you. It's only $5,000.
Exactly. But I talked to Tom, and I think that Tom's very capable of handling things going forward. They've been working together for quite a while. I think that it's in the best interest of the taxpayers to move forward with Tom and have Tom build his own team, which I think also plays into the conversation about Jerry Bishop. I saw the email that Jerry Bishop had sent for what he's working on. I think that it's a little underwhelming to me, just being honest. And I talked with Tom. I think Tom has somebody that he could bring in potentially, or find a few different people that we could discuss to replace Jerry Bishop, and then also have that person kind of be a dual role of what Ray is currently doing and what Jerry's doing, to be a backup to Tom here on the council, but then also help with litigation. So I'd, like to discuss, giving notice to Ray and Jerry, give them 60 days notice, and then we can move forward.
I thought Ray gave us notice that he was working till the end of the year. Now, I thought that it was going till January 1st.
And that may be the case. I'm just saying.
That's how
I
we
don't
set
think-
up, because it wasn't so much about being duplicate, it was about transition. And this is a huge corporation. It's a county government, but it's a huge corporation with a lot of tentacles. Ray's been here for over 40 years. There's a lot of things that he does outside of the normal scope. So I thought we were just doing this to have a transition. Now, the whole Jerry Bishop thing and where we're at litigation, I know Linda Marmalade does a lot of research, and I agree with you that Tom would have to pick and choose who he wants to work with, who works well with George, which is taking over some of the responsibilities for Terry. But I think it's important to give Tom the assistance he needs to get through this year, because There's
Well, and I
just,
think
just the
I-
logistics of all the
And I think
files.
to
I mean,
comment
there's
about
40 years of files that you've
And-
already got to get scanned and emailed to you.
And I talked to Tom about that, and I don't foresee that being an issue. I think he's capable. So we'll discuss that.
But I had given my word and I had said I agreed when Ray was getting ready to retire that I would support it as long as he would give us, and I wanted more time and asked for more time. And I think Councilman Ham did as well, and a few of the folks that aren't here now. So we needs to be relooked at. We
And I
were
think-
looking at
it's
the
a-
end of
I
the
think
year.
it's a conversation that I wanted to have. And
I just don't want it coming from the Board of County Commissioners, because they get a hard on for us, and then all of a sudden they wanna, come in here and come after us. They want us to lose our lawyer, because we left them with egg on their
Don't mix
face. I don't know
words.
if you can hear that, Matt, but I meant it.
This has nothing to do with that.
How many lawyers do they
This
have
is
anyway?
just.
Right, how many do they have? A
From my
billion?
perspective as a business owner, I think there's duplication that we don't need. I'll just be honest.
And, and Pete knows, it's no offense either way, it never is. I'm in favor of,
I appreciate it.
I'm in favor of keeping Ray exactly where he is until the first of the year. So I don't mind,
But we gotta,
making
Ray, you
it.
wanna?
Yeah, just briefly, I agree this, we should, do this at open meeting on Tuesday. But I do have a contract, to the end of the year,
Mhm.
which time I expect to fulfill. And
so bad.
We hire. Marvin, keep the word there. But anyway, what needs to be discussed is, I've not just been the attorney for the council. I've created a legal department for the county council with all different lawyers. And probably the most important person is my secretary, really Lisa. She's also a researcher. She puts together briefs for me for appellate courts. And she is really the third, right now she's the third attorney. I believe that Lisa could probably pass a bar exam in municipal law. What she's put together is 40 years of our work. I mean our firm's work, because my contract is not with me. The contract is with my PC corporation. So and I had her, let me back up. We've had 40 years experience, 40 years of contracts. Every contract we've had for 40 years has been voted on by the council and unanimously approved. There's never been a dissent. And that's Republicans, starting with Sid Gardner, and it's Democrats, and it's men and women, all races have always give us a 1-year contract. And we basically get a flat fee. We don't put money on it. And that money from the county goes into kitty with all the other PI cases I have, and that's, and if you look at it like I'm getting a check for X amount of money every month, that's not to me. The check goes to the PC, and then we go from there. So I've used my money, the county's money, to try to put together what I think is probably one of the best legal departments for a county council in the state. We've won I think we've won every battle we've been in court on that I could remember. The ones we lost was HCI. I don't know if you even remember what HCI is. It's healthcare for the indigent, which oddly enough, General Assembly passed that, where the money was supposed to be paid for indigent hospital bills. And instead it went downstate, and a little bit left here. 25 million a year. 25 million a year was being raised by the county taxpayers, basically for hospital bills that never went to and went downstate. The reason I'm bringing this up is Jerry Bishop is the guy who's lead attorney on that. And he won the case in tax court. And the state appeal, it got to the Court of Appeals. And before this Court of Appeals could do anything about it, The Supreme Court grabbed it and took it and reversed the tax court act. And they said, Supreme Court said, well, yeah, it violates due process and protection. That was the argument. But your delegation from Lake County voted for it, so we're going to overrule Judge Fisher. So he didn't win that, but the significant ruling in the tax court and the Supreme Court caused the General Assembly the next year to eliminate that tax. So figured that was at least 15 years ago. So Jerry Bishop took the case where he saved us $25 million for the last 15 years. And there's more to what my little legal group has done over the years. It's not just putting together some resolution or happy birthday or what have you. It's solid legal work. The purchasing, like I said, not involved with. I disagree. It's always going to be involved. The Commission for Life to lose and lost, and which I try to be a gracious winner, but sometimes.
And I'm not denying,
Anyway, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just last, and mainly, people the heritage the legal group and Tom, the last year, it's been a lot. Since we don't do billing by the hour, I had my secretary just she's in April. This is what I'm doing. Is I had my well, that's 60 hours. It's out. 60 hours. So I mean, what you're going to inherit from me by quote unquote computer system that has 40 wasted.
Chris, do you need me for anything else?
Ordinances.
Okay.
Ready to go. Which way? In fact, you need one this weekend. We get calls from everybody on weekends, Saturday, Sunday. Can you have this for Monday? I'll bet you Tuesday morning, at least Monday afternoon, we will have something from someone. Our bill's on progress. Can you do this for the meeting tomorrow? Secretary gets right button. She picks up what we did 10 years ago. Same type of case. And we can get it out to you Monday night or Tuesday morning. Was able to do work for the county during the meetings on Tuesday. During the meetings. Okay. So when you say that I talk about two plumbers, it's just not the same. And I think
well then, I think with that then, how are we going to survive after January 1?
you're going to have to. I'm going to give you like 40 years.
Okay.
Worth how much?
And I'm not denying the work that you've done and Jerry Bishop have done in the past. I think that where we're at today is we do have a decision was made that Tom was going to be hired. And I think that we do have duplication there that is not necessary for today. Now, yes, there will be things that need to be replaced. And I'm not diminishing the work that you've done for the last 40 years. That was not the intent at all. I'm just saying from like, whether it's the end of the year, whether it's 30 days, whether it's 60 days, a transition will have to happen. And for me personally, as a business owner, as a citizen, as a member of this county council, I think that we're capable of ripping that Band-Aid off sooner rather than later. And I know that there will be council members that won't agree with me, but that's the stance that I've taken.
I understand, Pete, by the way. I understand also the transition period, 1 year. 1 year. So as Ray describes it as a legal team, I'm all in favor of that. But then after Ray's done, I think it should be Tom's legal team. So I think I fall somewhere in between, but I'm in favor of keeping Ray and then letting Tom put together a legal team. Get the person here.
Can I, Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
This, Ted used the term cloak and dagger, and it sounds cloak and dagger, that he doesn't like that stuff. I have talked to Councilman Mulder, and I've also talked to Ray. I talk to Ray every day. When Ray and I first talked about me applying for this job, he told me that it's busy and you do stuff every day, and I do stuff every day. I am talking to the Department of Local Government Finance. I'm talking to other office holders. I'm talking to lawyers. I'm talking to Matt Reardon. There's something that you do for the county every day, and Lisa is an integral aspect of that. What Ray has committed to me is the transition that, and then Lisa has also, I don't want to talk out of school, that she will continue after the end of the year, even when Ray retires. So I don't want there to be a perception that I'm talking about Ray behind anybody's back, because I'm not. I have nothing but the highest praise for Ray and his work and the assistance that he's given me in the last year that I've been here. So if it eases the council's mind, the suggestion that Lisa would continue to work with me and raise in on those discussions too, is going to be a benefit, because you have to keep in mind, we have no legal staff here. It's no support staff. And I don't want to keep talking about the commissioners because Matt's my friend too. Matt's got support staff. John Dole retired after a long time, continued to employ him. He, and still does. And nobody's talking about that, but, and that's okay, because that kind of institutional knowledge that Ray brings to this and John Dole brings to this is invaluable, because they've probably experienced almost every issue that's come up, whether it's him having a file on Project Pumpkin. Who would have thought that cold storage plant, we'd still have files on it, but we do. And Ray keeps them and maintains them, and he's done that. So I don't want the public or the council to think that I'm, I appreciate this job. I enjoy this job. It's a challenge every day. And I like Pete. Pete's my neighbor. We this, I understand where Pete's coming from. But I think there's a transition plan in place that Ray and I have worked on, and that's kind of where I'm at. Do I feel like I'm ready? Yes, I do. I've been practicing law for 35 years. Is it incredibly helpful to have a sounding board with Ray and with Matt and with John Dole? Yes, that's what lawyers do. If you clearly don't know everything, but you know where to find the answer, and that's kind of what we do. So I appreciate the council giving me the ideas.
Yeah, Ray, I don't think you needed to defend the reasons why you work for us and would have worked for us for 40 years and everything you've done for us. You're invaluable. I mean, I still call you very often because there's that history of knowledge that you have. And, no disrespect to Tom on that, but there's just that history of knowledge that we have. And I'm, I want to grant my promise and keep you here to the end of the year. I still believe I'll probably be calling you afterwards.
I expect to get calls. Each of you call me too.
I reserve that right. Yeah. But if we let you go early, there will be a charge?
Maybe.
Madam Chair, back up to 18B, the bond, judgment bond ordinance. I have, the last bond that was issued here, I had noticed, and this was right when I took office, that there was quite a few what they called local bond council charges added to the bond. And it's my understanding that we hire a bond counsel as part of the issuance of the bond. And then we're adding additional fees to it on top of the interest paid. So I have some questions of the transparency of the local bond counsel's charges, because there's no time and materials included. These are things that are outside the contract, being billed outside the contract as part of a bond issuance. And yet there's really no transparency to show what we're being charged for the local bond council. And secondly, the 5.5 million, I believe it was what, about 3 point, and Matt, you can correct me if I'm wrong, about 3.8 million is the actual judgment being paid out. Is that correct?
We've had a couple of more settlements that have come through, Councilman. So I mean, but we're not anywhere near the 5.5. If you give me one moment, I can check with Rose to see what, but we're probably a little bit over 4. Oh, here, she just gave it to me. We're just under 4 million right now. We still have through the end of the month to try to get some things settled. So I'm going to guess that we'll probably be in the low 4s to get that done. So
Okay,
it
so
won't be
what,
anywhere near the 5.5 million as requested. We just always put in there up to make sure that we're covered.
so I don't want to be a stick in the mud at the meeting on Tuesday and create any unnecessary delays. Is there anything that we can do from a transparency standpoint as far as what is being paid to local bond council and why?
Yeah, Matt actually has that, Councilman Lay was looking for the costs of bond, and that does exist. Matt, if you could either, I've got it in my email, I can forward it to all the
I can forward it to all of the council members. I guess I thought perhaps that you may have provided that to them, Tom, so I apologize. But I'll be more than happy to send that off.
I didn't ask for hourly though. I just simply the cost of issuance,
Yes.
which would be a lump sum figure. We have that same billing to bond council. I've never seen it broken down or the.
When I've reviewed bonds in the past, municipal bonds, and reading the contracts with the hired bond counsel, it's always very detailed as to what the charges are for. But the local bond counsel kind of gets lumped into the bond, and I'm just trying to add some transparency to the process of trying to figure out why we're paying all of our lawyers this money when we already have a legal firm issuing the bond.
Well, you still would be required to have local bond counsel. I probably did 75 million, but I didn't get paid 75 million. So let's get that straight.
Rats.
I've never seen it broken down.
Thanks, Florius.
Like you're suggesting. I remember years and years ago, the mayor of Gary, Richard Hatcher, questioned my billing on a project. And when we got downstate, other attorneys were told that they had to go into a room. I was told not to go into the room. They had no problem with mine. We were paying $74,000 to an individual that did absolutely nothing. But that was not a local bond counsel, but that's the way bond counsel had set it up. They have to support what the bond counsel is doing. In some cases, they may not even be licensed to practice law in the state of Indiana. And I'm trying to remember on Canadian National, which is the railroad company up in Canada. That was the last one I did of any size. And again, they took a year to pay us. So I've never seen a definitive breakdown. I've seen percentages at some point, but never exactly what local counsel would do. But I know local counsel is necessary. There may be meetings, there may be things to do. And normally they do not say, well, we're going to pay you $300 an hour or $500. It's a lump sum. And
so I appreciate your perspective, Councilman Lane. Obviously, I don't share your experience. But I do have experience in the municipal side of this from a elected official standpoint. And I've always acted on debt issuances of any kind in a manner that has been consistent of time and materials and not to exceeds. Those are things that we've pretty traditionally done in the governments that I've participated in. We don't want to have, and I'm not saying that local bond counsel isn't necessary. There's a certain amount of review that has to be undertaken locally to make sure that the interest of the county is being represented. But if a local bond counsel is getting paid 20 or 25,000 and doing 8 hours of work, it's pretty extraordinary. from an hourly standpoint if you don't have a breakdown of the actual work that went into it. Since these are things that are outside of the contract, I'm just looking for a little extra transparency.
I've been elected school board, township, Gary City Council, as well as this in 4 legislative bodies.
Yep.
I've never seen
Well, and
the
to
breakdown.
change the subject even, I mean, talking about fees broadly and then the interest, from what I had seen, if we were to do up to $5.5 million over the next 5 years, between the fees and the interest, we would be incurring anywhere from $900,000 to $1 million in fees and interest. When we have the money in the bank account, in the general fund today to pay it off, I still don't know why we're doing this.
I've spoken to bond counsel about this, I don't know what interest rate used.
It was in the documents that
Well,
we had.
it's gotta be bid. The bond's
Okay.
gonna be
I
bid.
mean, I don't care if
So
it's
expensive.
$500,000.
Okay.
That's more money than we need to be paying out over the next 5 years if we've got the cash in the bank.
You can bond for capital improvements, you can bond for judgments. You can't bond because you ran out of money. And that's kind of the concern is if you said, let's take any surplus we have and spend it all, that's.
And I'm not saying that we would do this if we had to do it next year and we are in a different position. I would say that for today, the position that we are in is that we are, unless somebody's holding back on some sort of capital project that I don't know about. I mean, maybe the commissioners are, I have no idea. I just think that for today, for $4 million, whatever the interest in the fees will be, I'm very comfortable with the finances. I've talked with Scott.
27 pay would cost us.
$4 million.
Ray, do you have something you want to add? I have another meeting, so I'd like to move things along.
I've done probably $75 million with funds as well for the county here and Lake Station. I was city attorney for Lake Station 12 years under 3 mayors. We did probably 40, 50 million, maybe 40 billion because we built the municipal complex. And I've always, I find bond counsel, no matter who you get, they want a local counsel, they want a local attorney to be the local bond counsel. And one of the major reasons is I got to sign a letter that said I reviewed everything and I find it to meet all the standards because down the road when there's a problem with that and I get sued, it's my malpractice that gets in. And they would rather have my malpractice taken in there. So they want to see a letter that I looked at everything and I, number one. On the second thing, it's just been history of every bond I've ever done. I've got place ready. They want a local outcome.
I'm just not a fan of, well, we've always done it this way.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that. Why?
It's
for the job.
Dave?
yes, ma'am.
We're a bond counsel, you need to go local bond counsel. You should get them.
I understand a lot of talk about the bond council. All I wanted to add was, I am completely in favor. I've talked to both attorneys, the old one and the new one, and I'd like a contract. I would like a contract.
Very old.
Seniority. But I'd like a contract for Scott Schmall. That's all I wanted to say. And I've asked that probably a half a dozen times and I'd like to find
We got a draft from Tony Overholt and I'll be happy if I can.
awesome.
Very
Awesome.
good.
Second.
Everybody just got an email that has the bond costs in it. If you,
Okay, all right,
thanks, Matt, for sending it.
okay, all right.
Thank you.
Nothing
Thank you.
further, meeting adjourned.
Brother.
Barb?
All right, see you Tuesday.
See, Dave, I thought it was near the meeting.
I'm not a whiner.